interesting. Well, a better deal, better skills, better jobs, better wages. That's the new slogan Democrats are set to unveil tomorrow. Sound familiar? Well, some people on Twitter think so.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
Stop playing this pizza commercial. I'm getting hungry. And while they claim it stresses the economy, critics say they're more focused on resistance against the president. Here to debate, Fox News contributor, Democratic strategist Richard Fowler, and former communications director for President Trump's transition team, Brian Lanza. So, Richard, a lot of people saying, look, this could be the Democrats turning a page away from resist and putting out something new, a new platform to talk about Chuck Schumer's economic agenda. What do you say?
Well, I think a slogan is a slogan, but I think you're right that Democrats are trying to figure out how we get this right. How do we have a conversation with the American people, resonate with them, and push an agenda that is inclusive of everybody? And I think you can't look at this in a vacuum. You have to see this in a world where you have Trump Care, which is likely going to fail the Senate next week, and what the CBO is saying is that 20-some-odd million individuals could lose their health care. So we have to create a juxtaposition to those type of policies, and I think you'll see that roll out over the next couple weeks.
Yeah. And some conservatives this morning on our show and over the weekend, Brian, have been saying this sounds very familiar. Better skills, better jobs, better wages. Isn't that what President Trump has been talking about since he's been in office?
Yeah, and it's what President Trump is doing since he has been in office. I think when you just look at the new slogan, it's not much different than the policies that were rejected in November. I mean, I want to see what the specifics are. I mean, the middle-class worker had suffered under 8 years under President Obama, and you have President Trump who's reversing that. He's working to create new small businesses. He's working to strengthen the economy. And so I'm very curious to see specifically what this better deal means. What we always know from the previous deals is that the American voters loses when the Democrats come up with whatever deal they propose.
Richard, are we entering an era of self-reflection for Democrats? We saw Chuck Schumer to the Washington Post taking a swipe at Hillary Clinton. I don't know if there's any other way to read this. Maybe you read this differently. He said this, and I'll quote, "When you lose to somebody who has 40% popularity, you don't blame other things, Comey, Russia. You blame yourself. So what did we do wrong? Well, people didn't know what we stood for, just that we were against Trump." So self-reflection from the Democrats?
I mean, I think Chuck Schumer's right, and it's something I've said all along, but I think that doesn't negate the fact that for the past 8 years under President Obama, we had really good economic growth. Not only did we create, like, I think it's 80 consecutive months of jobs, but remember when President Obama got the keys to the car, this economy was in a free fall, and that ended. And I think Trump is benefiting from that, and I think he's benefiting from some Wall Street optimism, but that optimism is going to be short-lived if he cannot get his agenda through. He promised the American people health care. He promised the American people a tax reform bill. He promised the American people infrastructure. Neither of those three things are done.
Brian, Richard brings up a great point, right? There's a lot of hope right now in the market. We heard this yesterday from Trish Regan on our show. There's a lot of hope in the market. Yeah. And if they don't get tax reform done, they don't get health care through, there could be some trouble on the horizon.
100% agreed. I mean, I think that's why you have the president marshaling all his resources to make sure that these things do get accomplished. I think the one fact that I'm going to sort of dispute with my colleague here is the last 8 years of Obama haven't been great. Growth has been, GDP has been at near record lows, considering all the money that was flushed into the economy. I mean, you can't just say it was great. But what you have with the president is you have his focus, you have everybody in his cabinet focused on reversing the last 8 years, dealing with deregulation, dealing with wages. I mean, we can talk about all these jobs that were brought forward. A lot of them were low-wage jobs. That's not what the American dream's about.
Richard, final word.
I have one point on this. I think when Republicans make this argument about deregulation, you have it's really in the details here. What are you deregulating? So if there's onerous environmental regulations that you want to roll back, that's one thing. But when you have the Department of Education rolling back protections against protections for students and protection for student loan borrowers, that's problematic. So you have to, when you say this broad brush, we'll roll back all these regulations and not talk about specifically what regulations you're rolling back, I think that's disingenuous at best.
So Richard brings up a great point. Brian, I'll give you the last word on that.
You know, listen, we've been 6 months into this term. It hasn't been a long time. He has 4 years, and he's on the path to 8 years because the Democratic Party doesn't have a message going forward. But you're right, the details are going to be forthcoming. I think you're going to see the president's tax plan in the next couple of weeks rolled out.
We don't want them forthcoming. I think the American people are looking for them right now. I think that's the argument that we're making.
I could keep giving you both the last word because you keep making great points. Brian, Richard, great to see both of you. Have a great Sunday.
Richard, thank you.